This is episode number 71 of the Homeowner Show. Whether you're DIY or looking to hire, we're here to help you find the best information and options for you and your home. My name is Kevin Hackett, and here with me is Craig Williams.
Hello, and welcome to the Homeowner Show. We're glad that you could tune in, dial in, tap that button, whatever.
Dial in.
Do people dial? Have you seen that video of the dad that gives his kids 5 minutes to dial a number on an old rotary phone?
Yeah, they can't do it. They can't figure it out.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things on YouTube. It's pretty awesome.
If you haven't seen it, I guess we could link that up in the show notes.
Yeah, I can put it up there.
Make that happen, Kevin.
Yeah, it's good stuff. My mother-in-law actually still has an old rotary phone that.
Does it work?
It does. It actually does work. But my kids love to play with it whenever they go over to her house, and they don't know what it is, but they love to play with it.
My kid's favorite thing is the typewriter. They think it's the most fascinating thing in the world. Like we have a really old one, and it still works.
Do you have an electric one or one that you have to press the thing?
Oh no, it's got the slide register and everything. Yeah,
and we've got two at my parents' house, and they've got one of each. Yeah, so
we're making ourselves sound way older than we are.
That's so true. My parents had it in college. Does that help?
No, maybe they. Okay. You know.
I will tell you, I do remember when typewriters came out that you could type a line before pressing enter, and it would then print that on the paper. And you go to the next line, and you could type out a whole line before. And it
have like a little screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I still remember it was a really big deal when they came out with the ones that could delete.
Yeah.
Had like a backspace.
Yes.
That was a big deal.
Yeah.
So, and rightly so.
Yeah. And look at where we're at now.
Yeah.
Predictive text has gone.
Take that, whiteout.
Yeah. No kidding. Man, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm having to play Inspector Clouseau in my front yard right now, but that's all right. And it's very much Inspector Clouseau because I have little to no idea what I'm doing. I'm looking for a leak.
Okay.
There's been a puddle that's been accumulating in a specific spot.
Maybe your dog's just peeing a lot.
You know, that was actually my thought because it's right by a tree.
Oh no!
For a week I was like, these goofy dogs have just decided that this is the line in the sand.
This is it.
This is the tree.
Yep.
We're all gonna mark it.
This tree is going down.
So, but no. There's a leak in the ground, and it's got to be a little one, and so. But
maybe it's a natural spring.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I'd be down with that.
Yeah.
I just need to figure out where to send the water.
Drill a line, put a windmill on it.
Okay, I could do that. It's right by my house is the problem. And so I've got to figure out what's going on.
It's probably a leak.
It's probably
probably not a spring.
And, this isn't the first time this has happened either. We've had other ones because the house is so far away from the road and the water, the main water line's down by the road. I mean, like just leaks every once in a while because tree roots and cars driving on top of stuff. I mean, like just leaks happen.
Yeah.
But this one, I mean, like it seems to be getting a little bit bigger and a little more aggressive, and so we got to figure out what's going on. I may end up having to, phone in to Jim over at JC's Leak Detection if I can't figure it out. The problem is that I'm pretty good at plumbing.
Okay.
I'm not great at a whole bunch, but I'm pretty good at plumbing.
Yeah.
I just don't enjoy it. So it's
a lot of work.
It is, and so I have to rationalize it in my brain because look, stupid, you don't enjoy this, but it's really expensive to have it done. You know that you're capable, and if you just spent the time, you could actually fix it. But then the other side of my brain is like, look, dummy,
you don't have the time, and it's got to get done now.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's the way it goes.
So basically, it's a no-win situation where I'm a moron no matter what I pick.
Just call JC.
Yeah.
Call him.
I probably will.
Well, it's an interesting time around my house as well. I mean, we've kind of, Christmas has come and gone, which means we now have exponentially more toys than we did have.
I told your wife to stop buying you so many.
Well, but I keep, playing with them. So,
but you were a good boy.
Exactly. That's right. I did all the good things. Anyway, so we've gone through a really interesting process of purging.
Nice. I'm a big fan of purging.
Yeah, and we are too. It's just it's not that we're just the ones making the decisions. We're actively assisting our kids through that process, and so
that's just going to take forever.
It does.
I just sneak in the middle of the night and take what I want.
We've done that before, and it works. But we really want to kind of teach them. You've got new toys. There are people out there that don't have toys, and you should, help them out, give them the stuff that you don't play with anymore, or that you're too big to play with anymore.
Right.
And so it's just a whole cry fest of, no, it's my favorite toy that I haven't played with in a year, and so that's been interesting. I just took, I took so much stuff to Goodwill today. It was ridiculous. So lots of stuff we purged. And then the other thing that was good today is we had a water softener guy come and kind of just check our system. And, it just reminds me how important maintenance is on home things that sometimes are just out of sight, out of mind. And, we've got a reverse osmosis system as well. So underneath, they've got the filters and the 3 canisters underneath, and all those need to be replaced and everything. So it's all good. Everything's running good. We didn't have any issues.
You didn't replace anything?
No, we replaced all the filters.
Oh, okay.
And
are those expensive?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're not cheap. I mean, so 3 filters. I did it last year myself, and it was $60.
Okay.
I had him do it as 80. So it's really worth him doing it.
Yeah.
There's also a filter that we have on the outside of our house. It's a pre-sediment filter before
everything comes in.
Yeah. And I don't know. I've never even looked inside that container, that canister. But it's huge. It's a 20-inch filter.
Oh my gosh.
It's huge.
It's massive.
Yes. And this thing, we took it off, and he looked at it, and he said, we didn't install this. He said, I don't know who installed it. Maybe it was here before we even installed. Who knows? But it was brown. And I'm not talking like kind of brown. I'm like, it looked like a tree limb. like someone had stuck a tree limb inside this canister.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we've lived there for 2.5 years,
right,
and I haven't touched it. And I would be shocked if it was touched for the 3 years previous to that. So anyway, I mean, stuff like that, maintenance is just...
Where do you even get something like that?
Well, the guy that was there working on it said that, like a box store, Home Depot, Lowe's,
really?
That would probably have it, but I went to Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah. So I bought a 2-pack. Should last me a year for like $35.
I'll have to show you the one in the garage, see if it's similar.
Okay.
We got a couple of them on different buildings around the...
Yeah.
They're easy to put on too. I mean, if it's the same one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a line from the water coming into your house before it ever gets into your house. It's just a pre-filter, just to kind of get the sediment and stuff like that out.
Yeah.
And then it goes through our water softener, and then all that comes into our home. And then, of course, we've got on top of that, then we've got the reverse osmosis system under the sink just for the drinking water. So, man, if that water's not clean by the time it hits my throat,
it's just not going to get clean.
It's not going to get clean. So, anyway, maintain your stuff, like change your filters for your air conditioner, all that kind of stuff. It's good.
Cool, man. Well, we're pressing on tonight with part 2 of our series.
Yes,
the best of the decade.
Last week we did what we thought was the best of the decade.
Right. Yeah. And if you haven't yet, we referenced a video that we found on YouTube about walking through this old innovations or interventions.
It was so the building that was Innovations East.
Okay.
And the name of the video was House of Innovations.
Okay.
So it was kind of playing off of the building that was in.
Right. And the gist of the video is it was, Disney Epcot's predictions about what the home of the future was going to be like.
Yeah.
And it was eerily accurate.
Yes.
And so we thought it would be fun to go through last week. What we did is we went through our you and I's, we each got, our top three, what we thought were like the best innovations over the last decade. And so in order to continue on in that spirit, we wanted to take this week and make our top three predictions. I don't 10 years feels like a long time to be predicting stuff. I mean, like,
it does.
Well,
I mean, when you think about the last 10 years, I mean, so the way technology has traveled over the last 10 years, I mean, we talked about this. The iPhone was invented in 2007.
Yes.
Right? That's whenever it first came online. To where we are now, 12 years, 13 years later, is unbelievable.
Right.
To see where that phone that didn't have a camera on it now is.
The first one didn't have a camera?
I don't think so.
That's boggling. It had to have had a camera.
I know the iPod didn't, so maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Razors even had cameras on them.
Yeah, maybe it did. It wasn't a very good one. I'll put it that way.
Not compared to what we have now, for sure.
No, not anywhere close.
We need to look that up and see if they had cameras on them.
I know the iPods didn't originally.
The iPods didn't.
I'm not talking about the rotary
rotary iPod.
The iPods. I had one of those, by the way. Actually, I had two of them. No, I'm talking about the full screen iPods. I don't think that one did, but
you're talking about like the iTouches? Is that
yeah, touches. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think those had cameras.
No, I don't think so either. Anyway, nevertheless, to think where, I mean, that technology alone has come in 10 years. To think about the exponential increase we're going to get over the next 10 years is mind-boggling.
So here's a question I have. Not to take us way off kilter. Does Apple even make like music devices anymore? Like, I remember it was a pretty big deal when they came out with like the Shuffle, because it was a little tiny thing you could clip on your shorts.
Yeah, Microsoft had the Zune.
The Zune.
Right.
Do they even make, I know people make MP3 players.
You can still buy iPods.
You can still buy iPods?
Yeah.
Like, are they like iTouches? Is that like?
Yeah, they're like, whatever. Like,
really?
Yeah.
Like they have them?
8th generation or something. Yeah. Yeah, my wife bought one. Now, I don't know. So here's the question that I don't know the answer to. I don't know if they've made one this year or last year.
Right.
But I know my wife bought the latest generation about a year ago.
Okay.
She bought the latest generation, and they were still producing them. So,
it doesn't seem like there would be a market for that anymore.
Well, and there's not much, because if you go listen to the Apple events, they're not talking about them.
Yeah.
So maybe they're not making new ones anymore.
Anyway,
but they're still available.
I'm gonna look into that as well.
Okay.
So
for no reason.
Well, I'm just curious. I mean, in the spirit of making predictions, no one's really doing anything with because everything's streaming, right? Yeah. Even music is streaming, and you've probably got an Amazon account or a Spotify account or a Pandora account or something.
All of them.
And so which I imagine is rough on the music industry, but people aren't buying albums.
No, they're not.
And they're barely buying songs.
Yeah.
So
why? Why would you?
So it seems like they ought to be creating devices that makes music more enticing.
Yeah.
A higher quality device, or I don't know.
I don't know either.
What am I to do? It's not one of my three.
No, mine either. So what we're gonna do tonight or today is we're going to give our predictions, the top 3 predictions from each of us for the next, or for this decade, for our current decade,
right?
The 20s, which is weird to say.
The Roaring 20s.
The Roaring 20s. That's right.
So I went first last time, so I think that means that you have to go first this time.
So
fair's fair, Kevin.
Okay. All right. Now, in full disclosure, we made this own kind of disclaimer amongst ourselves.
Right.
These are just predictions. Who knows if this is actually going to come true? So
they're 100% accurate.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Well, I'm pretty confident in my first one. I'm going to go with my one that I'm most confident with to the one that I'm least confident with.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the one I'm most confident with, I'm just going to put out there. And the reason I'm most confident about this is because we're already starting to see this happen. I just predict it is going to go in some pretty cool and maybe scary places, and that is self-driving cars.
Okay.
I think we're going to have self-driving cars, like not just. I mean, they basically have them now. I mean, there are certain road systems that are even being striped such that the car is reading the stripes, and
right.
you know, and we've had cars that brake for themselves for years now, and you know, do all these sorts of things. So I think we're going to see this technology really take off,
right,
and not just be something from a no pun intended, a test drive type of place,
right,
to something that is full on by the year 2029. I think we're going to be that's going to be the thing. Everybody's got this this ability to sit back and play on your computer, or take naps or whatever while your car drives you from point A to point B.
Well, and you're right. I mean, this is already happening. I mean, Tesla cars are fully capable of doing this.
Right.
I mean, like they've shown it, and I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but like there are people making products to hack Teslas because it's technically against the law for there to be self-driving cars.
Right.
But like most of the Teslas on the market right now are fully capable of self-driving.
Yes.
So what Tesla had to do was to put in a system that requires you to put your hand on the wheel, and I think it's like every 2 minutes or something like that.
Okay.
So in order to ensure that the driver is engaged in what's going on. So there's these people that have developed these products that you can like basically attach to the steering wheel.
Oh man.
To make it think that your hands are on the wheel, and you can literally play on your phone or whatever. Wow. And so like that's already happening.
Yeah, and so let me be clear on this. Like, it's not that I necessarily think this is the innovation that's going to come,
right?
Because it's already here. My real point here is I think it's going to take off.
Oh yeah,
and I think it's going to be something that we see come to fruition to the point where, just like the House of Interventions video that we watched, and that we put in the last show. Those products were already in production, but I don't know what the percentage of those were. 75% are probably things that you have in your home.
Yeah, some version of it.
Yeah, some version of what they were using there, up to probably 75%. You have a device or a something that was very similar to what they were using. And that's kind of my point with this. Like, I think it is going to be something that everybody winds up adopting, that all of the manufacturers of cars are going to wind up installing into their vehicles, and you're going to be purchasing a vehicle in the next 10 years that drives itself. Not just a Tesla, but, a GM, a Ford, a Honda that's driving itself.
Okay. I agree. I think it's coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
He agrees.
So I think it's probably going to look a little bit different than what we think it's going to be like our concept of driving.
Yeah.
I think we're definitely going to have it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what it's going to feel like. Although I just think that I think the laws are going to change. I think the road systems are going to have to update themselves on, even signage is probably going to have certain technology put into it that allows cars to know various things, but also, all the GPS systems are going to become so freaking advanced.
Well, I mean, I actually heard something the other day. I mean, that's the whole point of 5G getting out.
Yeah.
So, and I'll add a little appendix to your prediction.
Okay.
I actually think it's only going to be, at least in the next decade, I think it's only going to be functional in like high metropolitan areas.
Okay. I can see that.
I mean, for a couple of reasons. One, I mean, like they're going to have the infrastructure of like the wireless networks in order for these cars to communicate and GPS and all that kind of stuff. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a easy way to sell it when you can say we can alleviate traffic.
Oh yeah.
Big time, because you're going to eliminate rubberneckers and
when you can virtually eliminate wrecks,
Yeah.
then you eliminate the traffic logjam
Yep.
that happens.
Yeah. So like, I think Houston will be an interesting city to see if that actually happens too, because it's such a sprawling metro.
It is.
It's a little weird compared to other big cities.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Cool.
Ready for mine?
Yes, sir.
So my big prediction over the next 10 years is what I'm categorizing as smart food.
Smart food.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the way that people interact with their food is going to be drastically changing. I think it's very similar to your prediction. It's already happening.
Sure.
And so I with things coming on the market that we continue to see, things like Keurig, things like Instapot, and I think I saw one the other day where like they're doing there's like a Keurig version of soft serve ice cream coming where you can have like a soft serve in your kitchen. Yeah. I think a lot of food interaction for people is going to become more and more of that.
Yeah.
Which I don't necessarily think is a good thing. But I think we're going to get to a place, we're going to have this interaction now. And you mentioned this last time about, how, grocery shopping has changed. Like, you can order it online, you can run to the store and pick it up, or you can just have it delivered.
Sure.
Or Amazon can deliver it from Whole Foods, and so like, I think the way that people are interacting with their food is just going to drastically change. And so like, I think food is going to get smarter. I don't necessarily think it's going to get better. But
there's a lot of things out there. I mean, even things like DoorDash and, the ways that, pretty much any place is delivery these days, right? And so, you couple stuff like that with ideas of things like the Keurig that you can program to have your coffee made by the time you wake up in the morning is.
But I could foresee an Amazon type system, where you're meal prepping, and your meal prepping is basically clicking on a screen, and then you have a device in your kitchen that basically receives that delivery, prepares the food for you, and you just take it out and eat it.
And it could be really fresh. I mean,
could be. Yeah,
you could have drones delivering your food, and then your kitchen preparing it by the time you get home at 6:30 to eat. Right?
Yeah. I mean, like if you had a deposit box for your Instapot, and they're just basically dropping like a dish in there in your Instapot, you can either connect to it via Wi-Fi or whatever, and like, hey, the food's been delivered. Do you want Instapot to start cooking it so it's ready for? Like, I think that's totally going to happen.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. I'm with you in that I can see some. Because there's a lot of great things that happens in a family around cooking,
right?
That I think would be lost. But I mean, the convenience of that could also be really, really cool.
Yeah.
What I'm concerned about, you bring up something I'm really concerned about is just the dumbing down of people in general. I mean, because no longer is there any use in debating information. Because all we got to do is pick up our device that's next to us, ask Google or Alexa to tell us the answer, and we've got the answer. And before those devices were available and the internet was so readily accessible, I mean, just sitting around talking about stuff and trying to figure things out was just a different level of life.
Well, I mean, and I think that's true of like simple facts. But like when you start getting like complex facts, right? And I think food is one of those complex facts, right? Like, what's the best kind of meat for you?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a complicated answer.
Yeah.
Because it really depends on the person.
It's subjective in a lot of ways.
Well, it's subjective, but then it's also like objective.
Depending on
like,
the person.
What's your health situation?
Sure.
What are you trying to achieve? Are you allergic to chicken? I mean, like there's all sorts of variables in the answer, and so like the truth or the facts get sort of, they're not muddled, but like there's not like a definitive like this is the one.
It's more complicated for sure.
So, but like, which is to me one of the problems with developing a system like that. Which I mean, like, but like, our technology is getting so much more advanced and complex that it's going to be able to, I think, adopt those characteristics and be able to tell, like, okay, Craig's blood pressure is high. He's not getting enough vitamin C. Maybe we need to adjust some things in the diet.
Okay.
And so I don't necessarily think it's going to be us picking the food as much as we're going to, be able to submit, who we are and our vital statistics. I mean, like, we're already getting a lot of that stuff through our phones and our watches.
Yep.
And we're, sharing that information and for a good reason, and there's some people are really upset about it for privacy stuff. And I get that. But this is why that kind of thing could be helpful.
Yeah.
And one of the benefits of it, if I want to look at it from like the positive side, is like it might actually make you eat healthier.
Oh yeah. And part of eating healthy is knowing the types of ways that your body needs to be fed.
Right.
And we talked about that in a couple of episodes ago, just that not every diet is for every person, but being able to tailor and custom make things based on your own individual needs,
right,
and your ability to know what those needs are.
Yeah,
that could change a lot of things.
Yeah, but can you imagine if like there's a device in your home that you're giving biometric feedback to, that's then taking that information, it's looking at your sleep patterns, it's looking at your weight, it's looking at your blood pressure, it's looking at your mood.
Yeah,
and then it's adjusting your diet based on those things. I think that's totally possible.
Yeah.
I think there's probably people working on it already.
I hope so.
But again, I don't know that I like that.
Well, I
love cooking.
I
like interacting with my food.
Yeah, and I think that there's probably, I don't know, this is the part of this conversation that I feel like we have to kind of rein in on some level and go, just because it is available doesn't mean that it's got to be adopted.
Right.
Either. I mean, so I think that just because something is available doesn't necessarily mean that that's where you have to go with it. And one of the things that I have a real hard time with is like, we talked about the iPhone. Take that for example. Like, it's been around for now coming up on, it's not 13 years old yet. It's still 12 and a half, right? Yeah. Something like that. It takes a decent amount of time for a piece of technology to be available and people to adopt it. And then once it's adopted, there's a certain amount of time for that technology to be used before any data can be really taken from that.
Right.
And then the data takes time to be researched and understood before a statistic can ever come out. We are just now in the last year getting real hard statistical data on how the iPhone specifically, or just smartphones in general, are affecting humans, and the way that it is changing our psyche from a depression standpoint, from an anxiety standpoint, from a busyness standpoint, from a distracted standpoint, from a just a reclusive type standpoint, all of these sorts of things. Now, those are all negative things, right? There's a lot of positive things that you could put on it as well, but we're just now starting to see the data from that. So what's going to be interesting to me is if something like what you're talking about becomes available, it's going to take a while before we understand how to interact with it.
Yeah.
I mean, because what I sense right now is I sense technology being one of those things that people are like, oh, that's awesome, let's do it. And you buy it, and then you, like, at some point you look back and you go, wait a minute, like, I didn't ever expect to be here with this piece of technology, and I wish that I wasn't.
Yeah. And
trying to rein it back in is very difficult. And so that'll be interesting.
Yeah,
for sure. So, all right. My second one is, I think we are going to have new and alternative fuel sources that are running both things in our home and our vehicles, and not just electricity.
Oh,
I think that I think there's certain limitations that electricity brings with it. I think there's timing things. I know there's a way to recharge things. I know that there's, but solar is even part of that. It's a different energy source than what electricity is, right?
Right.
You can turn solar into electricity,
Right.
But I think we're going to find different, more efficient fuel sources that are more cost effective, and I think they're going to be less draining on just the environment as a whole.
Yeah.
And so, right now, most homes are run off of electricity and natural gas.
Right.
Now, you've got propane, and you've got solar, and you've got some other things that people are utilizing, but
Kerosene.
Coal. By and large, though, it's electricity and natural gas. I think that we're going to see different types of fuel pop up. And a lot of this in my mind is generated from just the knowledge that, the EPA has gotten so involved with the way our vehicles are made, right? And so like now you've got these diesel engines in these big trucks and vehicles that they have to have certain types of filters on them, and then you've got to put in certain additives in it so that it burns cleaner and all these sorts of things. And I think at some point we've got to get to a point where we go, okay, this is destructive enough that something else has to happen.
Well, and to your point, I think they're going to eventually regulate it enough where it's going to be not profitable.
Exactly.
To produce those devices.
We've already found that over the last, call it 20 years, diesel was way cheaper than gas. And now it is never cheaper than gas.
No.
And, it's weird because
but more efficient.
It is. And what's weird is from what I understand, I don't know that much. Okay. It's clear. Right. But my understanding is you make diesel out of the leftover remnants of what's in the bottom of the gas barrel. Right.
Okay.
So you're using you're using leftovers to produce it, and it's more expensive, which doesn't necessarily make sense, but it does out there to somebody, I know.
Right, yeah.
But either way, I just think that we're going to get to a point where the current fuel sources we're using are not efficient enough. They're harmful to the environment, and we're going to find new and inventive ways to fuel the things that we do. And I mean, everything needs power these days. We live in a very power necessitated world, right?
Yeah.
Everything we have is powered. And so just figuring out what that new source is going to be interesting. And I think in the next 10 years, we're going to have at least something else available.
Do you think there's a chance that we could miniaturize nuclear?
Maybe. I mean,
I'll tell you my theory on this.
Okay.
I think we probably already have the technology to do that.
Okay.
But that we don't, because once we open it up to the public, then it's going to become the scary side of nuclear is going to be available to other countries that we don't want to have access to that.
Okay.
I think that's probably the reason it hasn't happened yet.
Sure.
Because they haven't figured out how to close that loop.
That's an interesting thought. And I don't know. I really don't know what it's going to be.
Because you want to talk about efficient.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it may not be the most environmentally friendly, but I mean, for the most part, they've kind of figured out how to minimize that.
Well, and we've done that with so many things, right? I mean, so many things that we have in our lives, we figured out how to make them environmentally okay. I mean, we could say the same thing about plastic, right? I mean, we could say the same thing about burning lots of different things that we burn.
Oh, dude, I actually learned some stuff about plastics recently that just freaked me out.
Okay.
I think we've actually made it. I mean, if what I heard was true, it's way worse.
Is this like the whole McDonald's chicken McNugget thing, way worse than you really thought it was?
Well, I was listening. There's this kid that's developed this. Do you know about the floating island in the Pacific?
Yeah.
That's the size of Texas.
Yeah.
It's nothing but plastic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
Yeah. It's not okay.
Yeah. So, and apparently the way plastics break down, they just break down into smaller and smaller pieces. And there's some theories floating around that a lot of the increase that we're seeing in cancer is actually the microplastics that have gotten into our system and are causing inflammation that allows cancer to attach. There's all kinds of weird stuff about it. I don't know if any of it's true. There's smart people who are talking about it, and they're scaring the bejesus out of me. But because like, he was even, like this, I forget the name of the guy. It was on the Tim Ferriss podcast.
Okay,
and it was this. It was actually the guy that originally developed the iPod for Apple.
Okay,
and he's really big into trying to solve the plastics issue. And he was talking about how the labeling on some things have even allowed them to make it appear as if they're recycled, but it's just all it is. It's like it's new plastic that's recyclable.
Oh, okay.
And he goes, and that's not helping anything.
No.
You're just creating more plastic.
Right.
So anyway, scary stuff.
What's your number 2?
My number 2. This one, I think we're going to get really in-depth smart pet devices.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, how like we have like WebMD now?
Yeah.
I really think because people are already okay with like microchipping their dog, microchipping their cat.
Yeah.
And these are really just like location devices.
Yeah. Well, my dog is microchipped. It was a free service when we got her spayed.
Right.
We got her microchipped. What is interesting, and at least about the one that we have, is it's not GPS at all.
Right.
It is just a way to know whether or not that's my dog.
Right.
I mean, the microchip contains information.
Right.
And there are certain places that can read that chip. And if the dog is taken to one of those places, they can read the chip and go, oh, that's Kevin's dog. Let's call him. We have his phone number. That's all that my microchip does. But to your point, it's not only available, it's very common for that to be in dogs these days.
Yeah. So I think it's going to go many, many steps further. I think we're going to have devices that we basically put on our pets. They give biometric feedback data. So like checking their heart rate, checking all that kind of stuff. Kind of like the way that we put on Apple Watches, and they can do like ECGs, and is that what ECGs? Yeah. And so you could almost, instead of going to the vet, you can connect virtually to a veterinarian office, and that vet's going to be able to get all the diagnostic data that they need in order to determine, okay, do you actually need to come in, or what are the other symptoms that are going on, and I can just diagnose right here because I have all this information right in front of me.
That would be beautiful.
It would. So I think that's coming. I mean, and I think because people, I think guys and gals are going to be developing that technology because there's a market for people who want to take better care of their cats and dogs.
Sure. But honestly, vet visits are very difficult.
Right.
I mean, especially if you have multiple animals and taking the time out of your schedule to go to the clinic, and it takes, and
it's a pain because you never know if your dog's going to attack some cat or
exactly.
So I think the reason I'm predicting this, I think it's actually good for the veterinarian business. Sure. They probably be able to see more clients. Yeah. People are going to, because those appointments will probably cost a lot less because, it's just going to be cheaper to have those appointments,
When you're not in a brick and mortar type of, establishment anymore.
Right.
I mean, they probably have an office, but it's not the scale
right
that it would be currently.
Yeah, I talked to a gal the other day that she was using some sort of online doctor service because she was out of state in Colorado. And something happened to her where she was like, I know what it was. So I just got on the computer. There was a doctor on the other side of the screen. I told him my symptoms. I told him, what my temperature, what my vitals were. He told me he concurred with my own diagnosis of what I thought and wrote me a prescription, and I picked it up at the hotel.
Oh, that happens all the time. We do that with our own family now.
Today. She was like, it was crazy cheap.
Oh yeah, I mean, so So with
I think she said it cost her like $50.
So we, with our insurance that I've got through my job, we also, I think they pay, it's something stupid, like $7 a person to get this like a teledoc service.
Right.
It cost me zero copay. $0 to call into the doctor. And yeah, I can send them pictures and we can just talk on the phone, or we can do a video face to face. And yeah, they can go, yeah, this is what it is. I'll write you this and you go pick it up.
Awesome.
It is so awesome.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's exactly what's going to happen, because I mean, like, you know, veterinarians are regulated. They're not nearly as regulated as people doctors.
Right.
You know, they're highly regulated.
Sure.
But if we can do that with people,
yeah. Why not?
Yeah. And the technology's there.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree. Okay, cool. I'm with you. I like it.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd even use it.
Oh yeah, we would too. Absolutely. Okay, so here's my last one, and this is the one that's a little far out. Pun definitely intended.
Oh, okay.
So I think that we're going to see space vacationing.
Oh, okay.
Become a thing. I think we're going to see people vacationing to the moon, for example.
Oh.
I think that, I mean, we're already seeing like
Virgin is planning on this. I mean,
yes.
they've already sold tickets.
Yes, on having some opportunities for that, and it's a ridiculous amount of money.
I think it was like 120,000.
Yes, and you're there for very limited amount of time.
Yeah. And that's just going to space.
That's just going to space.
Yeah.
Like I think that we're going to see some sort of habitable place on the moon that we're going to be able to go to and spend a night, for example, and just have the ability to be there and be on a completely different planet, so to speak. You know, it's a moon. I realize, okay, people, don't send us emails. I know the moon is not a planet, okay? But it's a completely different foreign type of place to us.
Yeah. You'd be just as excited to be on Pluto.
Exactly. Which thankfully is, again, a planet.
Is it a planet again?
Yes.
Make up your mind.
It's been reinstated. Yeah. So I think in whether or not it's the moon or whether it's, just some other space station, that you get to go to and do that kind of thing. I think that people are intrigued enough about space,
right,
that we're going to get to a point where, people are outlandish with the things they already do.
Yeah.
I mean, just the types of vacations that you hear some people wind up taking and things that they do on these vacations.
Yeah.
Like I had a friend, he was a pilot. He was a private pilot for a banker, and he came home regularly telling me things that his boss had him fly him to this, that, or the other. And he told me one day he came home. He's like, "Dude, you'll never guess what I just did." And I was like, "No, you're probably right. I won't." He's like, "You ever watch Shark Week?" I'm like, yeah, I've watched Shark Week. Who hadn't watched Shark Week? And he was like, so like the Great White episodes where they like get down, they put people down in the cages and they put the fish in there and they come up and they're like biting at the cage and stuff. I was like, yeah. He's like, I did that. So you did what? He's like, yeah, I had the chainmail on and everything.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, why? And he was like, because we were in South Africa and my boss wanted to do it and he asked me if I wanted to. I said, sure. And so he goes vacationing to swim with great white sharks.
Awesome.
Like the risk taking that winds up being, right, is just astronomical. And so I think that we're going to see completely different side of travel. And whether it's space or not, I think that there's a lot of inventive ways that travel is going to go crazy. And we're seeing things like underwater hotels,
which I think are awesome.
Yeah. I mean, but again, like there's a significant risk to doing something like that, right?
I don't care.
I'm kind of with you. But I think that we're going to find that there's some pretty cool opportunities to vacation differently than we're currently vacationing. So
I'd be with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, I don't think I could ever afford it. But
Come on, Kev.
well, I mean, surely it'll be affordable someday, right?
The Kev of the next decade could.
Yeah. When I'm 70,
New and improved Kevin could do this. You got it.
I guess if they, the next decade they get me super healthy, then
That's right.
sure, I'll go up to space.
Why
I'm
not?
healthy. All right, so that was the one that I told you I was like least confident
Least
about.
confident. Okay. I'm actually pretty confident in my number 3.
Okay.
We'll see if it happens though. My number 3 is storage container homes.
Oh, dude. Okay. Go ahead and talk.
Yeah. So have you seen Ready Player One?
Yes.
Okay. So you know how like
Yeah.
that whole, I think we're gonna start seeing more and more of that.
Yeah.
And not just because, and I think initially it's going to be because it's kind of the hip thing to do.
Sure.
But I think it's actually going to come out of practicality.
Okay.
I think it's going to be, that's going to be the conscientious. That's the way you're going to be able to virtue signal your conscientious house building.
Yeah.
But it's actually very practical.
Sure.
And it's not a bad way to build a house. I mean, they're super structurally sound. They're very safe. I mean, they're like hurricane resistant. I mean, like you put them together right, they're not going anywhere.
Right.
And they last forever.
Sure.
So I think it's going to be more and more of a trend, and I also think it's going to happen because I'm actually anticipating a big glut in the real estate market in the next at least 5 years.
Okay.
We're just building too much right now, and there's not enough people buying. We're the generation that we're building them for is really not interested in owning homes.
That's true.
And so there's a huge there's a lot of people building apartments right now. And I think people are going to get tired of that model. And so I think some people are going to catch on. And building shipping container homes is actually pretty cheap.
Yes, it is.
And so I think when the traditional real estate market kind of, takes a tumble, which it traditionally does. I mean, it always does.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes up and down just like everything else.
It ebbs and flows.
So when it goes down again, I think one of the things that's going to bring it back up is shipping container homes.
Okay. So we just down the road, that we have a shipping container car wash.
Yeah. That they just finished building.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting, and I think it's catchy. I think that's one of the reasons they did it.
Yep.
Right. But to your point, my sister and her husband, they sold their house and they moved out to a lake area that they owned a little bit of land, and their goal was to build a metal home,
right?
Like a Mueller type of home. We had them on our show not too long ago, and I went out to dinner with her not too long ago, and she was like, "So yeah, I don't think we're gonna do the metal building thing anymore." She's like, "Really? Why?" And she said, "It's just kind of more expensive than we originally thought, and just not quite as practical as what we were thinking. So I think we're gonna do a shipping container home."
Yeah.
I said, "Whoa, what?" Like I'd never heard of this.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Yeah, we've been looking into it, and a lot of people are doing it, and
They are.
we think we can build something that is just as big." And they're not talking about anything huge. They're talking like 1,500 square feet.
Right.
They're not looking for anything massive. Something that is a lot more cost efficient. They can do most of the work themselves. And it's just, I mean, like you said, structurally, you don't get anything stronger than steel.
Right.
That's what they're made out of. And so, they're making these things 2, 3, 4 stories high. And it doesn't matter.
Well, if you've ever seen them on a ship, I mean, they stack them 8 and 10 high.
Yes, they do.
And like, they don't have any problem.
No, none. And so it whenever she was telling me about it, I was like blown away. And then I started like doing some one-off research moments where I'm like, oh, I'm just going to look at this. And I looked at some of these houses. And I'm like, that actually looks really good.
Yeah.
And you paint them all the same color. You can have balconies. Like you can position them in certain ways to where you've got a natural balcony, like natural overhang, between one of the stories and the other. And anyway, just a really cool concept. And I don't know that it's for me.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting idea.
Yeah. And well, there's actually not far from here in the Woodlands. There's a 4-story shared office complex that just went up. If sometime you want to see it, I can take you over there and see it. But it's a giant L shape, and it's nothing but shipping containers.
Wow,
it's a really cool looking office place too. It's been going on for a while, and like obviously, I mean, like if you went and searched it, you can find lots of examples of people have been doing this for a while. Yeah, this is not like a new thing.
Sure,
I just actually think it's going to become more widespread.
Right,
and for one of the big reasons that you mentioned, because you're going to get a smaller footprint, and I think again that's going to be something where people can sort of, hey, I'm not using as much space as you are because I don't have as much stuff as you do. Sure. I mean, like it's all that kind of mentality, which is not a bad mentality.
Right.
We don't need as much stuff as we think we do.
Right.
And we don't, need as much space as we think that we do on our living spaces. I'm a big land guy.
Right.
I'd be perfectly happy with 1,000 square feet in the middle of 50 acres.
Yeah. And it opens up different types of opportunities.
Yeah.
And one of the opportunities it opens up is inexpensive housing that is every bit what you and I are living under now, as far as a roof, a safe place.
You can bury them too.
Yeah, I know.
And that's, I mean, like
which you think about, like the option for a basement. Whether or not you have a buried home or whether or not it's just a basement. Right. Like it's a completely sound basement.
Well, not only that, I mean, like once it goes subterranean, I mean, you really increase your energy efficiency.
Oh yeah. A lot of people have done that, and you have a different level of insulation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's one of the other things that I've seen people do with some of these homes is because they're made out of steel. Yeah. They can put sod roofs on them. Yeah. Or garden roofs on them, which increase the energy efficiency of the building.
That's right.
You put like a grass roof on it. Mm-hmm. You've got that extra layer. Yep. And it actually deflects sunlight, and it produces oxygen, and
a food source possibly.
Could be growing vegetables up there.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Oh man. Well, I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting, instead of having, trailer parks, you got shipping container parks possibly.
I think it's better.
Well, yeah, it would probably be better.
And honestly, they would cost as much.
Yeah. They probably would be a similar cost. So. But the structural integrity of those things
is better.
Way better. Yeah. I mean, especially in areas that have natural disasters like tornadoes or floods or hurricanes, different things like that.
Yeah. So anyway, we would love to hear from you guys. If you guys have some predictions for the next 10 years, we'd love to hear what you guys are thinking on the horizon. Did you think maybe we should put it to a vote as to what the audience thought, who had a better list?
Okay.
Yeah.
Or better list.
Yeah.
Maybe even the best one, the best overall.
Who do you think had the most accurate list?
Okay.
That could be an interesting one. So.
And in 2029, we will come back and revisit this episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dude, we're podcasting in 10 years. Oh, that'd be crazy. That would be crazy.
We need to at least have some interns by then.
Yes. Absolutely.
So what else? Anything else, Kev?
And I think that covers it. I just really appreciate people downloading this episode, and hope you enjoyed it. Should be fun. Just to kind of talk about, what do you think? Where do you think stuff like this is going to go in the future? I think it's interesting. And who knows? No, none of us know unless you're, one of those people that's already developing this technology.
Yeah. We've got some other fun interviews coming up pretty quick. We got I think we're like 2 months booked out, man, with guests at this point. So we've got some really cool interviews coming up. But then in February, we're going to be doing a new series called Getting Out of the House.
Getting Out of the House.
That's right. So we're going to do a whole, I think we're doing 3 interviews on nothing but travel. Yeah. And so we're going to be bringing you guys some really cool content about travel over those 3 interviews. So if you have any suggestions, if you have any questions about travel, send them our way, right? So we can prepare our guests for the intensity of the question.
Yep. So go ahead, if you haven't already, subscribe. Click that notification. Make sure you get all of our episodes each and every week. We're here on Tuesdays. Thank you for being loyal to us. Tell us what you think with a review and a rating on iTunes. That would be fantastic. Tell your friends about us. And until then, we'll see you next time.
See ya.